KK, welcome to the conversation.
Thanks so much, Shamna. Pleasure to be on your show, and I must compliment you for the wonderful work you're doing to support young entrepreneurs.
You're most welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to catching up with you on what you have been up to. Of course, we haven't talked in a little while, but we have followed each other's work for a long time. So catch me up on Mela Ventures.
Mela Ventures was launched about 2 years back, Shamna, after I exited MindTree, which was a public listed company, which I grew to $1 billion of revenue and a market cap of close to $3 billion. Now,
so KK was the CEO of MindTree. That's when we originally met. And,
that's right.
And then Mela Ventures is post-MindTree project.
Yeah. What we saw, Shamana, is something in the ecosystem which we could contribute is they were great, or the quality of entrepreneurs were significantly improving, and there were good ideas. But like you have done mentoring, if a fund was to take the onus of actively working with companies, help them scale, then we thought that the number of successful startups would increase. So that was primarily the thesis of Mela Ventures, where we said we'll be an early stage fund, which means we don't do angel investing. And what we mean by early stage is we really come in as the first institutional investor when the initial product market fit has been established. There are maybe 3 to 5 customers, and there's revenues of anywhere from $250,000 to say $750K. We do believe at this stage, the challenge which entrepreneurs face a little different from the first stage where they raise angel funding, build out the initial version of the product. This starts translating into building an organization. And that's where I think we're using our experience, network, and our knowledge to help entrepreneurs navigate that stage successfully. Yeah.
Right. Let me try to understand the specifics of the kind of entrepreneurs that to send you. I actually have one in mind right this minute, which I could, let me first talk to you a little bit and frame where your investment thesis is positioned. Besides the stage that you described and the kind of check size and where you want to, well, we haven't talked about kind of check size. You said you want to see some amount of revenue, some product market fit. What is the fund size that you're operating with in Mela Ventures?
Very interesting question, Ramna, because we're an early stage fund. Our fund is a little over 40 million. In Indian rupees, it's about 320 crores. And like I said, since we typically be the first institutional investor, at the first stage, the check size varies anywhere from maybe 1.5 million to 2 million. Now, and we would like to have a double-digit ownership of the company, anywhere from the low teens to the mid-teens ownership. Ideally, we're just focusing on B2B business models because we think the experience of the general partners is really in global B2B businesses, and we can bring in both our knowledge and network to help entrepreneurs navigate the GTM with our support and help them in a variety of other areas, like building the next level of management team through our network, helping them put strong processes on people, on operations so that they're ready for scale. So in a way, a model of investing, since you asked about the investment thesis, is that we do not intend to invest in this fund with a large number of companies. We are very clear we'll invest in about 12 to 14 companies. So we are focused in our picks, and we work intensely with them with the intention of scaling them up 8 to 10x in 2 to 3 years. That's really the goal of Mela Ventures.
And when you said B2B companies, so are we talking about mainly B2B SaaS selling to enterprises? Is that the investment thesis primarily from a sector point of view?
You're right. A large part of our current investment and what we look at is B2B SaaS. Because personally, we are convinced that the enterprise tech landscape is really ready for a big refresh. The system of records like ERP systems do not necessarily be digital friendly, and with enterprises wanting to accelerate their digital transformation, there's opportunity for a lot of B2B SaaS companies to become category leaders and global in nature. So that's a big part of our investments. Beyond that, we also look at business models in specific areas where the business model is B2B, but it's not necessarily a SaaS model. And I'd just like to talk about one example of an investment which I've done in a precision agricultural drone company. Because one of the thesis which we had here was in Asia Pacific and in countries like India, the land parcels are small, so you cannot use other means like which is followed in developed countries like helicopters and so on to do spraying. So it results in human beings carrying these insecticides and pesticides and sprays, which also results in health hazards. And it's not efficient to do that. So we identified this group of great entrepreneurs who had done fabulous work in the Indian Space Research Program in aeronautics, and they had built an indigenous drone with complete IP on both the hardware and software. What we have done is to really transform it to a B2B model where we sell those services to large corporates which are now taking huge parcels of land on contract farming. Like it's a beer manufacturer which takes over 1 lakh hectares of barley in one part of India. They start using that. So that's really, essentially, we are looking at opportunities which lie at intersections of at least two technologies, which then help us build unique value.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, does that thesis also translate into fintech? Because fintech has a big B2B element to it, and there's a lot going on, big market. India is a very big fintech market. What is your analysis of the fintech market?
No, you're absolutely right. Fintech is becoming a very large market in India, and what is very interesting is the public digital infrastructure to support fintech in India is also very well established, starting from the identity management system, which is Aadhaar, to the UPI, which is peer-to-peer payments almost with practically no fee. So with this public digital infrastructure being available, to expand it to a B2B model where you can address both SMBs' credit needs as well as how do they treat their receivables and evolving businesses like bill discounting and so on. So we're exploring a few opportunities in that space. The other area where, because of the public infrastructure, which in the B2B fintech context appears very promising, is the whole area of accounts payable. So we're looking at a few technology-enabled collectible or receivables companies, which are entirely changing the way in which collections have been done to reduce working capital cycle, particularly of small and medium businesses.
Okay, very good. So we have an interesting fintech company. After we finish, I will introduce you to Nitin, who is financing the company already in substantial revenue and so forth. So now, what in terms of the B2B tech, the global B2B tech, mostly SaaS, what have you invested in, and what are you seeing there that's interesting?
Like I said earlier, Samna, we see potential opportunities where ideally there's an intersection of two technologies. So one of the theses which we have is that the application of computer vision and AI will drive a lot of enterprise adoption in the next stage. So with that thesis, we look for unique use cases which are solving a real business problem. So one of the investments which I've done is a group of founders from IBM Research who had worked in the visual commerce product there, who have built a retail sales execution solution using computer vision and AI to change the way in which retail execution happens. Our thesis is that physical shopping is not going to go away because while e-commerce is becoming more popular, physical shopping is still a social experience and it will still continue. And traditional models of store audit, like the AC Nielsen report, which comes once in a month, or sending merchandisers to the stores to count how much shelf space you've got, are all some things which can be dramatically transformed through digitization. So this company works with a large set of global brands, helping them digitize the last mile retail store audit, so that brand managers almost get a real-time feedback of how their brands are performing in the shelves, and also get to know competitive activity almost on a real-time basis.
Interesting. And these are companies you are, in the point at which you're investing, are they selling only in India or are they selling elsewhere as well? What are the dynamics that you are investing in right now?
Again, very interesting question, Shamna, because this company, when we started, was selling only in India and leveraging our network with 3 of the large global consumer product companies. They are now present in about 10 different markets, and this year the key thrust is to get into a developed market like US. So our fundamental value comes in terms of helping entrepreneurs chalk out a viable GTM plan with respect to the market, acquire customers, and then start scaling up.
Well, and you have a unique Rolodex there, which I imagine that is coming very handy through your MindTree background. Now, is MindTree part of your channel? Is MindTree willing to sell some of these solutions?
Oh yes, in fact, right now I think there are at least 3 global prospects which are coming through the MindTree channel. So, and including Infosys, there are 2 possible prospects which come through that. So, number of the large IT services companies, including Accenture Innovation Labs, has evaluated them and has taken them to 2 customers again. Now, so it is the IT services companies, because of the presence they have with the clients and their need to rapidly accelerate digital transformation at their client premises, becomes a very, very strong partner.
Very interesting. Great. Now, switching a little bit to a different, trend topic that's happening in India. Both you and I have been watching the Indian venture capital and startup ecosystem for quite a while. There have been, 41 unicorns last year?
That's right. 23 of them this year alone.
So now, what do you make of that? What is your analysis of the unicorn mania that is happening in India right now?
See, while a part of the media visibility on unicorns has put it in what I call a very exalted state. But if you look at, I think fundamentally today we have far more mature entrepreneurs coming into the ecosystem. Several of them are serial entrepreneurs. They sort of understand what is it that didn't go well, or they might have not done right in scaling, and they sort of fix a lot of those issues. And the ecosystem today in India is also far more stronger. I think there are enough people available to mentor companies, help them through solving in an accelerated manner.
Yeah, a real ecosystem has come together for sure.
Yes, that's a very big change, which I find compared to a few years back.
But what I was, as you know, I'm a big fan of capital efficient startups, bootstrap startups, fundamentals oriented startups. We did in January, I don't know if you read it, in January we analyzed 20 Indian unicorns.
Yes.
In separate pieces each. And maybe two were not, I didn't consider two overvalued, all the rest were overvalued, like dramatically overvalued. So that means that people are investing in the futures and expecting that the valuation is going to get backfilled in due course.
Yes.
Which is the way in unicorn investing often happens. People put a very large valuation that is not the current valuation, but it's the aspirational valuation, put the money in and kind of give a lot of capital infusion to give throttle basically to the strategy of the company.
Yeah.
So, we have seen India is only now going through this kind of a cycle. In the US market, the Silicon Valley market has gone through many of these cycles.
Many of the cycles.
This kind of investing hasn't always worked very well, right? People, make a mess of having too much money. Often they make a mess. So let's hope that at least some number of these entrepreneurs are going to be able to keep their heads straight and execute. And if they do, there is tremendous upside because there's invaluable infrastructure that's going to get built in this process. I saw one company that is building surgical infrastructure in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Fantastic. I mean, okay, what if a lot of money gets lost? This is very worthwhile, to do.
You're putting in the basics of what is required, which wouldn't have been done through government intervention. Right.
So that all that is very positive. However, I was talking to Rahul Chandra last week about the same topic, and we was like, there is this kind of funding, the unicorn funding doesn't happen too much, right? There are only a few players who have the capacity to do this kind of funding. But in each space, there are a lot of entrepreneurs. So one of them or two of them get big funding, all the rest don't. And then they start feeling like, okay, how do we then differentiate? How do we manage the company? And my take on this is that there are two ways of building companies. You can build companies in this mode where you flush companies with capital and then backfill valuation and all that. But there's also the more fundamentals-oriented way of building companies where you put small amounts of capital, execute proper metrics, good, valuation is commensurate with metrics, and you build capital-efficient companies. And frankly, with $20 million investment, you can build unicorns in India. It will take 5 to 7 years to get to $100 million in revenue, but it's a real unicorn. So this point of view, however, I think is getting lost in the media's obsession and worship of unicorns. The point of view of fundamentals-oriented business building is getting lost. What are your thoughts about this?
See, I guess the media also has to play a role on it because, like you rightly said, making or really putting unicorn founders on a pedestal where the unit economies are still not established, but the fundamentals of the business are still not clear, was obviously the way in which, because as the number of business press grows and each of them are fighting for eyeballs, I think each in a way has outbeaten the other to acquire those eyeballs. But interestingly, what we see is today there is a significant gap between private market valuations and public market valuations, even in India. But what is happening in the last, I would say, few weeks is that the public market valuations of tech companies are also seeing a correction. Now, to that extent, I think right now there is a bit of FOMO in terms of particularly the unicorn type of valuations. And like you said, there are 2, 3 large players who only like to write large checks who are dictating.
Right, Tiger, SoftBank, maybe
Yes,
Excel.
yes.
Yeah.
But there are also companies which I would think are getting built, which aren't in the limelight, but are raising money, but with a very clear focus on unit economies, ensuring that in a reasonable time they become profitable and then scale. And
Yeah.
I think as the aura of this cycle little bit dies down, there will be certainly a more what I call uh, assessed type of decisions which entrepreneurs will take. Today, again, one that to look at entrepreneurs, they're also a little bit torn between saying that, hey, would I look stupid if I don't uh, sort of take this visible funding? Yeah. So I think they're looking at more in terms of visibility and the initial
Yeah.
headlines which will come for the company without thinking, can they deliver that value? Because at the end of the day,
Right.
they have to deliver
Backfilling
on a higher
valuation
value.
is a very dangerous, slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think the role of the media is to be a lot more responsible about putting limelight not just on these big fundings, but also on
Yes.
the people who are building serious companies. You know, when we cover companies in 1 million by 1 million, we've been covering companies, we've covered thousands and thousands of companies at this point, right? I started writing the blog in 2005, and since then, we've covered thousands and thousands of companies. We do not ask, how much funding have you raised? We ask, have you reached $5 million in revenue or not? So if you want to be in the 1 million by 1 million entrepreneur journey series, you have to at least reach $5 million in revenue, and then we'll cover you. I don't care how much funding you raise.
Right. No, you're
So,
absolutely right. Again, even in the Indian context, there are a few examples of people who have built what I call really sustainable businesses. A company like Zerodha makes probably 300 plus million of profits, completely bootstrapped, or Sridhar at Zoho has done a fabulous job of just being completely bootstrapped and potentially, probably since he's private, one doesn't know the number, but I think it's at least north of 300 million in profits.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that mode was actually becoming more accepted these days. You know, as the Indian ecosystem was moving, and even in the global ecosystem in the US, the more fundamentals oriented business building, more bootstrap business building has become a lot more mainstream. But in the middle of this unicorn mania strikes in India with Tiger and SoftBank and so forth. It's always been there here. So that's like two counter forces operating against each other, and it's a pain in the ass, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it's a pleasure speaking with you, KK. I will, as I said, I will introduce you right away to a company in our portfolio, and we'll see if you want to work on it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Samna. It's a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care, KK.
Take care. Bye-bye.